assaults that are taking place on media and on alternative media and community radio and NPR and public access. All of these institutions are under assault, and so it's just that much more important that we receive the support from the community to keep the lights on and to keep these voices engaged. And so we are, like I said, we are in our fall fund drive, and right now we don't have anyone manning the phones currently at this moment, but you can simply text my voice to 50155 to donate, or you can go to kkfi.org and make a donation. And want to encourage our audience here at Changing Narratives. Please help us to meet our goal. We have a goal of $500 for our program, and we surpassed that during the last fund drive, and I'm so appreciative of the support that we receive, and we're just asking you guys to support us again here in the fall. And so there are a number of things that you can get with your donation. I encourage the monthly sustaining donation, whether it's $10, $15 a month. Most of the time you won't even realize that it's gone, but that goes towards helping us a lot. So for just a $10 monthly sustaining donation or $120, you can get the new KKFI Your City t-shirt. There's also for a $200 one-time or for just $16.67 monthly sustaining donation, you can get the DJ, and you can become a guest DJ on the show of the program of your choice, where you can come in and play the music that you want to play. Of course, the clean versions that we can play on the radio. But like I said, I tell this story all the time. A few years back, I did a guest DJ spot on it. Happened to fall on my birthday, and had a great time, and heard from a guy that I went to grade school with, a guy I hadn't heard from since like the 6th grade, who just happened to be listening to the program at that time. So lots of fun. And lastly, when we talk about making a $240 one-time donation or a $20 monthly sustaining donation, you can get the new KKFI sweatshirt. Really, really nice sweatshirt, but more importantly than the gift, just continue to help us to provide a space and a community for diverse voices, which is what KKFI does. So
absolutely. Again, if we don't support it, with our listenership as well as our financial support, it won't be available, and then we'll be like, well, what happened to that one thing? You remember they used to do the thing on the Saturday?
Right, exactly. Exactly. And, when we talk about, what is going on relative to media, and just once again, for those of us who like to have a variety of options when it comes to your news, the same sort of stories, the same perspectives that you're getting currently in mainstream media, even in the way in which the No Kings rally and this nationwide protest, the way in which they're being covered by corporate media. You would think that when you have millions of Americans in the street protesting on a Saturday, that would break into live news. That would be live news coverage. That each news station would be covering what was happening in their respective city, and that's not what I'm seeing taking place. And so, that's why it is so important.
Purdue beat LSU though.
Right. Exactly. And so, that's why it's so important that once again, as a community, we support endeavors like community radio, and KKFI has been providing voices, diverse voices, since 1988. And so, and it's crazy to think when we're talking about this station being formed and what it took, and you think about what was going on in this country in 1988.
Yeah.
And the fact that
I
if
was
so,
a sophomore in high school.
and you think about the climate of the country,
Yeah.
and the idea that a community radio station was necessary.
Yeah.
And here we are, 30 years later, and we're in more perilous times now
Right.
than we were back then. When you look at how corporations have taken over the airwaves, whether it be radio, television, concerts, everything being monopolized and then turned against us by making it, unaffordable. It's just crazy. And now we want to take, and when I say we, I mean this administration, take that model and use it, for roads and for infrastructure and for replacing sewer systems and all of those things that are for the greater public good.
Yeah.
We want to privatize those and somehow turn them into for-profit.
Right. Again, I don't know if I stated this before, but I was looking at this piece about the Pony Express, and that was the modern day mail system at the time, and so they were getting ready to get congressional funding to expand that work, but then they came up with the telegraph, and the government had invested in telecommunications from coast to coast, so New York could talk to California. And so what did that do to the Pony Express?
That's right.
Well, we don't necessarily need y'all riding horses all the way across the country.
Right.
But the point is that the government had to invest into the infrastructure of the company to allow business to take place.
Right.
And that's what's missing right now, is the idea that the government should be investing in the people and the infrastructure in order for there to be good business.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea of doing things for the greater good and what that looks like, and not just for the interest of corporations. And what we're seeing now, like I said, this all-out assault on so many different levels. I mean, when we talk about just what took place this past week with Argentina, and the fact that we're in the middle of a government shutdown and our farmers are, out here, bleeding out, and you're bailing out Argentina for some other back-end deal on the stock market to benefit a few investors.
Exactly. And again, it would be different if it was going to change the landscape in the country, but it's the equivalent of having a car that, don't put no more money into that car.
Right.
If there's a break point.
Yes, exactly.
Then that's where they are, from my understanding, and what I've been seeing over the weekend is that you're still, as much money as that is, you're still throwing it into a bottomless pit.
Absolutely. But like you said, more importantly, it is what is taking place on the back end. And it's just one more example of this administration's lack of ethics, just their grift, and any opportunity to make a buck for themselves. That's exactly what they're gonna do. And so so much of what is taking place. I mean, won't even have the opportunity to talk about the ridiculousness of commuting the sentence of George Santos. I'm like, that's where we're at.
Let's pause for a minute and complete his sentence.
Yes. Once again, someone who pled guilty. Right. To the things that he was accused of, and
you still don't even know that this is his name.
And for someone who's tough on crime, you commute or pardon the January 6th folks. You have a guy who's caught on tape taking a bribe by the FBI. Yeah, and all of those things are
currently in your administration.
Currently, and those things are okay. And certainly no fan of John Bolton. But, the fact that you're spending resources indicting folks, and like you said, you can get anyone indicted. but what you're actually going to be able to prove. And in these instances, they're getting laughed out of court. But just the idea that you're indicting Comey or you're indicting Bolton just to to please the president when you know you have no case. I mean, once again, when we talk about unprecedented, and that word cannot be overused when we talk about this administration. And so we got a lot to cover on this show. So, man, we are actually up against our first break. So if you are just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown. And when we come back, we're going to jump into, what is taking place across this country with the No Kings rallies. We have some sound. They done upset the science guy. He done had to give a speech in D.C. So we're going to come back to that. So we'll be back after this quick break.
First at 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
Lakeisha Benjamin is known for her high-energy fusion of jazz, funk, and soul. The Folly Theater is located at 300 West 12th Street in Kansas City, Missouri. More information at follytheater.org.
It's that time of year. KKFI 90.1 FM is calling on you to support community radio during our pledge drive. I'm Bess Wallerstein Huff, the new executive director here at KKFI. Thank you for the warm welcome, Kansas City. Your generosity, whether it's your time, your stories, or donations, is what makes KKFI the vibrant, independent voice it is for our community.
It's the best.
I'm here to serve, to listen, and to be part of the conversation that makes community radio such a powerful connector in our city. Join me in shaping the future of KKFI. Make your donation today at kkfi.org and help strengthen the heartbeat of local media. Your city, your voice. Let's keep it strong together.
90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown in studio as well. And we are in our fall fund drive. Want to encourage everyone once again to simply text my voice to 50155 to donate, or you can go to kkfi.org, click on the donate button. There are several ways for you to make your donation. Every dollar is appreciated. Like I said, no donation is too small. We are just appreciative of the support and understand that it is going to take all of us as a community to dig in and combat what is taking place with this current administration. And so with that in mind, before we went to break, we were talking about the fact that we have the No Kings rallies that are taking place all over the country. Yesterday when I looked, there were approximately 2,600 rallies planned across the country. Of course, here in the metropolitan area, you had them in Lee Summit. You had them just up the street at the plaza. Actually, Lady D, who is going to be sitting in for Rock and Donna on Roots Wise Reggae at 6 o'clock, she actually went down there and was able to feel the energy and just how proud that makes me, because Lady D has been fighting the good fight for decades. And so just for her to go down there and to participate, I'm super excited about that. And like I said, just super excited to see folks that are galvanizing and putting up some resistance. And so we're going to listen to some sound. The science guy, Dr. Bill Nye, gave a speech in D.C. Today. And so we're going to listen to some of that speech, and then we'll come back and have a little bit of commentary about it.
It is wonderful to see so many of us out here today. We are here for the same reason our ancestors gathered here in 1776. We want our government to run without a king. Our government is based on ideas embodied in the Constitution. Among other remarkable features, it guarantees our freedom to speak, as we're doing here today. Rather than doing one monarch's bidding, we have agreed to form a democracy, to work together, and to follow the laws that derive from it.
That's what we do.
No thrones, no crowns, no kings. As many of you know, I am a native Washingtonian. I grew up here within the city boundaries. And when you grow up here, the affairs of the federal government are very much a part of your life. I remember well sitting on my father's shoulders and waving to astronauts as we as a nation celebrated their accomplishments back in 1964. In 1964, that was the first year my parents could vote for president as citizens of the District of Columbia. We still do not have voting representation in the district. Someday, perhaps.
Oh, shucks.
I remember well Martin Luther King's dream and Reservation City, the plywood structures of the
$200
National
donations,
Mall erected to house protesters
$30
who
donation.
came to town demanding equal rights.
And then, of course, I had told you
opportunities.
to do it 20.
Barely a month after
Cool.
Dr. King had been assassinated. I remember well the Vietnam War. The mall was shoulder to
Play this.
shoulder,
This is
much
about
as
5
it is
minutes. I'm gonna
today.
play.
Traffic stopped citywide. The protest movement expanded. There were protests around the country, and the war was ended. We are protesting in the same fashion today. Only today, the stakes are higher. Rather than abandoning a war against an elusive, perhaps sometimes imaginary foe, we are confronting the possible end of our republic. We are here to tell our lawmakers that what's going on in our government is wrong. They must stop the abuses of this petulant president and his circle of sycophants. No thrones, no crowns, no kings. This president and his associates cannot tolerate dissent. To them, our free speech is frightening. They are arresting people and denying due process in courts. They try to silence television hosts. They're trying to fire or indict civil servants, prosecutors, judges, even their own cabinet members. But in this land, these sorts of actions are not new. In 1776, our ancestors had had enough. They declared independence from a king by means of a document stored safely right over there on Constitution Avenue in the National Archive. Although it was conceived 249 years ago, the Declaration of Independence describes a train of abuses connected with an absolute authority, a king with absolute power. No thrones, no crowns, no kings. Their king had refused to honor the law. Their king had refused to let lawmakers be elected. The king had made court judges dependent on his will. They cited the king sending, quote, swarms of officers to harass our people. Their language referred to, quote, cruelty and faithlessness scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous of ages. Their king was trying to, quote, render the military independent and superior to civil power. Our founders even censured King George for cutting off trade with all parts of the world. Did these actions sound familiar? 249 years later, no crowns, no thrones, no king.
90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. That was some sound from a speech from Bill Nye that he was giving at the No Kings rally taking place in Washington, D.C. Earlier today. And, as he wrapped up that segment where he listed off all of the things that they talked about, as far as the king and the monarchy and the fact that of cutting off trade with the rest of the world and so many of those actions that are familiar with what is taking place right now. And so, like I said, it does my heart good to see so many folks that are willing to get out here and protest on this Saturday. And we are now about 30 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. So once again, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. But yeah, Brother Brown, man, just good to see folks out here. And, this is just one step in the process, obviously. Protesting is a part of it. But then getting organized and really being able to do things with intention and move to offset the way these folks are viciously moving through the courts when necessary, using the courts when necessary. And so there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, well, again, I think you hit it right on the head. A lot of people think the protest is the work. Mm-hmm. The protest is just a flash in the pan of the work that needs to be done. Because ultimately everybody has to go back to work, literally.
Right.
And so
exactly.
If you have not laid the groundwork for what people should be doing in between the large gatherings, then we'll miss the mark. And so, again, organizing on the ground level, on the grassroots level, just like they did to bring these events together is going to be key in the process. Mm-hmm. Again, just something that you were saying just about our standing on the international stage and how we're closing ourselves off. And it's like, there's not been a point in my time, in my life, where I've never met somebody from another country here. Mm-hmm.
Right, yes.
Born,
yes.
You're naturalized or recently here, second generation, what have you. Mm-hmm. Again, I can remember my third grade teacher was from Cambodia, and so that was kind of like my first daily contact with somebody from another country. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm saying that to say the idea of living in a global society is a foregone conclusion. And to think that we can reverse the levers on something so significant as participating in the global world in a significant and thoughtful and fair way,
yes,
is something that we need to just stop doing.
Well, and I think you make an important point when we're talking about having human experiences with other cultures. Right. And the idea that you think that that's a problem or that's a negative, that's the really what is at heart here. The idea that America is strictly made for this European idea of what life and values are. And if you're not willing to assimilate into that, yeah. And we don't even know what that is, because clearly, in my lifetime, what has been taught to me as acceptable behavior around values and, being respectful, all of that has been thrown out the window with these very same people acceptance of a character like Donald Trump. Yeah. I mean, the fact that, like I said, I was old enough to remember going to see Back to the Future, and the ridiculousness of a character like Biff, whatever his name was, and the fact that they made him president. It's like, no, but that's not gonna happen. Right. But it happened.
It did.
It actually happened, and I don't care what anyone says. As someone, once again, who was a full-grown adult in the late 80s, early 90s, and recognized what Donald Trump is and has been since then. Anyone who was around during that time who says that he has elevated himself enough to be worthy to be president of the United States is just simply lying. Yeah. I'm sorry. By any standard of Generation X, growing up in this country, I'm sorry, he's just not qualified. And so that's the thing where we're going backwards relative to that, and that's a problem. But once again, I am happy to see so many folks that are willing to get out here in the streets and protest it.
Yeah, well, again, and for that, this is what I was thinking about. Well, if I go to California, I don't want to eat the food that I'm eating here in Kansas City. If
Right.
I go to New York or Texas, if I go to the coast, I want some fresh seafood. You know what I'm saying? I may eat, something for lunch that I could get here, but I want at least one meal outside of what I could get in Kansas City.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying that to say that that's part of what makes America unique, is that you can experience so many different cultures in a unique way and authentic way, and not have to travel abroad. That becomes key. Again, if we look at, and this is not to compare people to the zoo, but I mean, I would hate to have to travel all the way around the world to see a lion.
Yeah, right. And once again, like I said, just the simple gesture of recognizing the humanity in everyone, and recognizing that everyone has something to bring to the society and to this culture. And then it would be one thing if you didn't kind of pick and choose the things that you do want to pick from those cultures.
Food is fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the irony of people being upset about Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl performances, but you're going to be sitting up there eating nachos. Exactly. And the way in which you've been able to exploit those things for your financial benefit, but then turn around and other it. And make it un-American. Once again, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like I can remember when I was teaching and kids had made a mess in the classroom, and then one of them was like, "Well, that's okay. The janitor can get it." And I'm like, "Hey, no, it is not his job to clean up after you.
Exactly.
It is his job to maintain the building."
Yes.
Now you guys are going to clean this classroom up, and you're going to show him the due respect that he deserves for somebody that has this place ready for us every day, so that we can come into a clean environment.
Right.
And so I had to make sure that they understood that the custodian here in this building is not a minor person.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he never
Yes.
clean this building.
Yeah, and that is important to bring that level of perspective to a situation. And so, because so often, people put these blinders on and they can only see the way in which it benefits or hurts them, and so, like you said, important to bring that perspective. I do kind of want to this kind of flow into what is going on with the Voting Rights Act and the Supreme Court and the likelihood of them gutting that and what that looks like, for the midterms. And, when we talk about Project 2025, all of these things are just falling into line, quite nicely. And, this what is being argued before the Supreme Court right now, and specifically Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, where it is basically makes it impossible for you to prove discrimination, even if that is the result of what takes place with the gerrymandering or whatever. If you want to institute a poll tax, if the result of it is discrimination, at this point it doesn't really matter. Is what it's looking like the Supreme Court is going to decide. And so we have some sound I want to play from Story on Democracy Now! Talking about this, and then we'll have our second break, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Once again, you guys are listening to Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown, and we are in our Fall Fund Drive. Want to send a shout out to Sherry Frazier, Bill Hume, to Kathy Peters, and of course to Toya True Love Hawkins for making those donations. Really appreciate you guys. And we are going to go to this sound from Democracy Now! On the Voting Rights Act.
Rights Act by striking down a key provision meant to ensure equal representation for black voters. The case was brought by a group of self-described non-African American voters who argue Louisiana's 2024 congressional map is unconstitutional because it includes an additional majority black district, which is meant to remedy a likely violation of the Voting Rights Act. The court's 6 conservative judges expressed skepticism that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act should be allowed to continue. Section 2 outlaws the creation of electoral districts that dilute minority groups' voting power. This is Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
The issue, as you know, is that this court's cases in a variety of contexts have said that race-based remedies are permissible for a period of time, sometimes for a long period of time, decades in some cases, but that they should not be indefinite and should have an endpoint.
The Supreme Court's ruling in this case could greenlight Republican gerrymandering ahead of the 2026 midterm election. For more, we go to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by Megan Keenan, staff attorney at the ACLU Voting Rights Project. Talk about the significance, Megan, of this case. What exactly does it mean in a country that even right now, most people under 18 are people of color? By the end of the decade, more than half the people under 30 will be people of color. Can you talk about what this means for this country, those who will govern and those who will be governed?
Absolutely. The stakes of this case are enormous. This is a case about whether districts that represent all Americans fairly will remain possible in this country. And I want to be clear that districts in which minority voters have an opportunity to elect candidates of their choice have not come about by accident, and we cannot take them as a given in this country. Those sorts of districts have come about as a direct result of the Voting Rights Act that we are here to protect in the Kale case before the Supreme Court.
90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. Once again, that was some sound from Megan Keenan talking about the Voting Rights Act that is being argued before the Supreme Court right now, but we are up against our second break. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to 90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown, and we'll be back after this quick break.
Support for KKFI is brought to you by Columbia College of Missouri. A new future is within reach. With over 70 online degree programs, at Columbia College, you can complete classes at your own pace. There are no book costs or hidden fees. Learn how to apply at ccis.edu/new.
Thanks to Beer Kitchen for providing lunch during our fund drive. Beer Kitchen serves brunch, lunch, and dinner from its location in the heart of Westport at 435 Westport Road. You can find them on the web at beerkitchenkc.com.
90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown. And before we went to break, we were listening to some sound from Story on Democracy Now! Earlier this week, where they're talking about the Supreme Court taking up the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and looking like they're like, hey, you know, it's about time for that to be ended, and the ramifications of what that could look like moving forward. And so, you know, like you said, man, they are moving forward full steam ahead with attempting to minimize those folks who have the ability to vote. I mean, it's just that simple.
Again, and if your policies and your legislation and your view of what America should be doing next was so popular, you wouldn't have to gerrymander districts. You wouldn't have to restrict people's ability to vote in order to have your ideas win the day.
Yes.
And so that's telling within itself, just like with the ICE agents. If you were doing the righteous thing and evicting these folks from the country, you would not have to cover your face.
Right. Exactly. And so, man, I do want to go back and finish a little bit more of that interview and sound from that, and then we'll come back and discuss.
Sure.
The 2023 Allen versus Mulligan case and its significance to the one that's now ongoing.
Sure. Just 2 years ago, the Supreme Court considered whether Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act was constitutional and whether it should continue to be used in the way that it has for the last 4 decades. Unambiguously, the court said, yes, it is constitutional, and we are allowed to remedy discrimination in the political process in the way that Congress set out. Just 2 years later, a group of voters has asked the court to reconsider that decision, and we think that it shouldn't, and that it should continue to follow the law, just as it did in Allen versus Mulligan.
And could you explain why this re-argument has potential implications not just for Louisiana, but across the country?
Sure. So the question in the case that was presented here was whether the use of race to remedy a proven violation of the Voting Rights Act is constitutional. That has implications for the congressional district in Louisiana that we're defending most directly, but it of course reaches much more broadly to whether we can remedy discrimination both in voting cases across the country and also in other anti-discrimination statutes. We cannot ignore the role that race plays in the system and expect to be able to remedy discrimination at all.
For people who are watching globally, can you explain what this voting rights case is all about, where it comes from in 1965, why Section 2 is so important, and what the ACLU is arguing?
Absolutely. We have a wretched history of racial discrimination in voting in this country that stretches very far back. In 1965, Congress took stock of that history. They looked at how voting discrimination has evolved over time, that it started with literacy tests and grandfather clauses to keep black folks out of the political process. But once those things were struck down, legislators found new ways to keep black voters from exercising their full access to the franchise. Taking all of that history in stride, Congress passed a complex, rigorous test to suss out when discrimination is happening in the political process and how to remedy that discrimination. That test is the Voting Rights Act, and it has continued to retool that as recently as the 80s. And for 40 uninterrupted years, we have applied this rigorous, data-driven test to figure out when discrimination exists and how to stop it. That's the test that's at stake in this case.
And what did the Supreme Court justices, the questioning, indicate to you? From Kavanaugh to Roberts, who has long wanted to gut the Voting Rights Act, across the board?
To be sure, they want to make sure that the system is working well and working fairly. But one thing that we at the ACLU took away from the argument was something that Justice Kavanaugh said. He said that there is complete agreement on the court that equal opportunity is still the goal, that ridding the political process of racial discrimination is still the goal. If that's true, then we know clear as day from the record that we built in Louisiana, we have not yet achieved those goals, and that the Voting Rights Act is still as necessary as ever.
I'm gonna wind it down.
So I just want to comment at the end here that you have this case that could, to say the least, even further dilute the voting power of people of color in this country. And then you have at the same time Adelita Grijalva, who was elected by an overwhelmingly Latino population of 700,000 in Arizona. And the Speaker of the House is refusing to seat her, so that this population of 700,000 are not even represented in this country, in Congress. Megan Keenan, we want to thank you so much for being with us, staff attorney at the ACLU Voting Rights Project, part of the council team.
90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown. And that was some sound from an interview that took place on Democracy Now! With Megan Keenan from the ACLU, talking about what is going on with the Supreme Court and them looking at the Voting Rights Act. And so we will definitely keep you guys updated as that case progresses and what that looks like you said, for the upcoming midterm. And I would just hope that with everything that is going on, we get more plugged in and understand just how necessary it is. We can't wait for Freedom to start passing out their pamphlets, or for Mayor Cleaver to show up on some news cast, talking about his particular seat. We have to get engaged on much bigger issues than just that. And so that's what my hope is.
Oh, absolutely. I've been hoping that there would be, just a bigger interest, overall, just given just the sheer volume of people that have lost their job over the past several months. Again, and we're not giving credence not only to just them losing their job, but the amount of collective experience that the government has lost and won't be able to get back and train up commensurate to the volume of people that have been put out of work.
Yeah, and what's even more frustrating is when we talk about, and she mentioned the fact that, over the next 10 years, when we're talking about the demographics of that 18 to 30 generation, 18 to 30 age being predominantly people of color. But then when you look at the way in which this country deals with its aging population, and when we talk about dismantling so many of these government agencies, we're talking about the Social Security Department.
Yeah.
So now when a senior has a problem with their Social Security or has a question, I mean, the hoops that you have to go through for something that should be simple. I mean, it's just frustrating. And so these are the things that we have to be intentional in trying to offset. Because like you said, they're wanting to make this government work for a very, very small percentage of the population.
Right. Well, again, and then, and then if you operate in that manner, then you don't need big government.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of people in this country with a lot of moving parts. And so what seems unnecessary, to you may be very necessary because you didn't realize that I was, who keeps putting this brick in the way?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm propping open the door.
Right.
It's in your way, but I have an express need to have this here. Again, you can look at if you're the football coach and you sitting there like, man, too bad they couldn't ban.
Right.
Well, you might be next.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, like you said, just that idea of
collective.
Collective good and having some empathy for other folks and a level of understanding that is not turning differences into weapons.
Right.
And that's the tough thing where it's forcing us to be in these silos of individualism and completely forgetting about the collective good. Yeah. And that's just problematic. Like you said, folks and our seniors especially that depend on basic goods and services that our government should be providing. And once again, when we talk about even something as simple as senior care, when you turn that into a for-profit business, you can go into pretty much any senior center and look at what is taking place and understand why that's not a good model.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, like I said, man, we want to continue to bring this information and hopefully continue to encourage our audience to galvanize and protest and be intentional with your behavior and really just on a day-to-day human-to-human interaction level, just start being kind to one another. Let's just start there. Looking for the humanity in one another as opposed to just focusing on all of the things that we don't like about each other. So, man, this hour goes by so quickly. We are now about 6-7 minutes before the top of the hour. I want to encourage everyone to stay tuned for Ruth Spies Reggae. Lady D is going to be sitting in for Rock and Donna. Like I said, we are still in our fall fund drive that is taking place up until the 26th of this month. So you still have time to make donations. Typically, I think on Saturdays, they have folks working the phone lines up until about 4 o'clock, but you can always simply text my voice to 50155 to donate, or go to kkfi.org and click donate, and you can make a donation that way as well. Once again, want to thank those folks who have made donations during this hour. We're more than halfway towards our goal, and so I want to thank you guys. And like I said, I have a sustaining donation that I have. I'm going to continue to do so. I encourage you all. KKFI, we need the support more than ever, as like I said, public community radio, public broadcasting is all under assault, and so it's important that we support. Man, anything before we get up out of here?
Yeah, just stay read. Again, you might have to go into some actual books in order to make sure that the information hasn't been altered to a degree.
Oh my goodness!
So you're gonna have a hard time finding, just with AI and just with all of the mudslinging and the back and forth. You might have to go into some static content to make sense of the things that you're looking at today. Because if you go read about American foreign policy or something that happened in the 90s with a book that's already been published,
right?
It's hard to change it.
Right. Exactly.
And so again, and that's what we're up against right now. The idea that not only do they want to support just that narrow section of the population, which is not the mass voters. There's an idea of rewriting and changing history because it doesn't fit the narrative that they want moving forward.
Yeah, and like you said, and being well read will help us all kind of decipher through a lot of that BS. And man, before we get up out of here, just kind of an update on the story we talked about in terms of Frank White being removed. And so attorney, was it Phil Lavoda? Has been named the Jackson County executive, the interim after the recall, and so it's going to be interesting to see the way in which the stadiums develop and what that looks like. Since a lot of folks were blaming Frank White for holding that process up, so it's going to be interesting to see how things work out. But just kind of wanted to update our audience with that. So, like I said, we're going to get up out of here. Want to encourage everyone once again, if you have not, gone to the archives, go to archive.kkfi.org. Check out some of our previous programs, and if you want to make a donation, go to kkfi.org, click on the donate button. There are several ways for you to make a donation. Some great gifts, like I said, I have the sweatshirt, we have a t-shirt, or you can become a guest DJ on one of your favorite shows and come in here and have a good time. So want to encourage you guys, continue to give. Fall Fund Drive all the way up until October 26th. We'll be back next week with another program. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your Saturday. It's Raider weekend, so let's take care of the Raiders, handle that business, and everyone have a wonderful, wonderful week.